Good morning, everyone. How are you all today? You're welcome back to class. It's good to have you here today. Welcome to English language class. Remember last week we started with conjunctions. We were able to look at contrasts in conjunction. Some of the words we were able to pick out some of examples of conjunctions and we looked at the contrast in some of them. We are going to continue with the contrast that we started last week. But today we'll be looking at the contrast in although and whereas. Welcome to class. My name is Mrs. Izoma. All right, so we are going to get into the class proper, but let's get to know what we will be learning at the end of the class. At the end of the class, you should be able to define conjunctions, explain although and whereas extensively, then state the roles of both terms, and also you should be able to make sentences using both terms. Now let's get into the class proper. What is conjunction? All right, so conjunction link words, phrases, or clauses together. It helps to form complex and elegant sentences. And without them, our ideas, we cannot express our ideas properly to just be short and then to be also be choppy. It will come out well. All right, so let's look at an example to buttress that. And we have different instances. I like cooking, I like eating, I don't like washing dishes afterwards. But if we use conjunctions will help us to place them properly and to come out well. Now let's use conjunctions to connect all these sentences together. I like eating and cooking. I like cooking and eating, but I don't like washing dishes afterwards. You see that conjunctions provide clarity and fluidity in our communication. So it helps to connect all those sentences together, making them, in fact, they all came out as just one sentence, all right? Like it came out as a complex sentence. Now let's get to what we are to do today, into what we are doing today. Let's look at although and whereas. The conjunctions although and whereas play crucial roles in contrasting ideas within sentences. All right. So although is a subordinating conjunction used to introduce a contrast between ideas with some similarities. All right. So when you want to use although, you look at the sentences. Now, the first thing to look out for is it a contrast between the two, and also do they have similarities? Are they similar? The two sentences, are they similar? If they're similar, then we are free to use although. Now let's look at an example. For example, although it was raining, she went for a walk. Now this sentence shows a surprising contrast between the rain and her decision to walk. On a good day, many of us want to sit back because it's raining. But she wouldn't mind going out for a walk even though it's raining. Alright, now let's look at whereas. Whereas is used to indicate a contrast between two completely opposite ideas. So let's remember that although is a subordinating conjunction, all right, but it's used to look at the contrast between two ideas that are similar. While whereas is also a contrast, but it's also showing about talking about two sentences that are opposite. Now let's look at an example. She likes to run, whereas he prefers to bike. All right, so really contrast. Someone is running, another person is actually taking the bike instead. In this case, the contrast highlight different what preferences. Now let's use although in sentences. Uses of although. Let's start with the uses. Although is used to introduce a contrast between two ideas that share similarity. I've said that before. So the ideas or the sentences must be what? Must be similar. All right. So and also what does although do? It connects a subordinate clause to a main clause. Okay. So it connects a subordinate clause to a main clause. And I hope you have not forgotten what the subordinate clause is. All right. And also the main clause. All right, so it's showing surprising on unexpected what contrast. Let's take that again. It connects a subordinate clause to a main clause, showing surprising or unexpected contrast. Now let's show this in let's use sentences to buttress this. Although it was raining, she went for a walk. Although we rarely see each other, we are still very good friends. Although I'd love to have dinner with you tonight, I already have plans. So all these show the uses all these show the uses of although. Now let's look at whereas in sentences, but we'll first start by looking at the uses of whereas. Now let's see, whereas is used to contrast two different things or ideas, and also used to introduce a clause that presents a contrasting point of view. And then lastly, it's used to highlight difference between two things or ideas. Now, let's show this in sentences. Let's portray this in different sentences. She enjoys painting landscapes, whereas her brother prefers abstract and art. Okay, so she enjoys painting landscapes, whereas her brother prefers abstract art. Another sentence, the restaurant served delicious food, whereas the service needs improvement. Okay, the food is what delicious, but the services there needs what to be improved. That's really a big contrast. So we have seen great progress in our project, whereas the competitors are falling behind. So let's not forget how we're able to use contrast in although and also whereas. Now, some people actually find it a bit difficult because they mix both of them. Now, let's see why they are often confused. Both introduce contrasting ideas in sentences. Meanings are very similar, but context varies. So, yes, these meanings are similar. You can use although to show contrast. So also is whereas. But let's not forget that we use although when we are looking at terms that are or ideas that are a bit similar. But where whereas deals with what terms or ideas that are what that's showing what opposite of it opposite. All right. Now tips to avoid confusion. All right. So we have looked at common mistakes people make. But now let's look at tips to avoid confusing both terms. Now, some of the tips we'll look at, we'll start with the strategies for clarity. Now, for you to use any of them, let's look at this. Ensure logical consistency in sentences. Use dictionary or thesaurus, and then read sentences aloud for error checking. If you do all this, you will not be confused. Then let's see how we can understand both of them. Although, in spite of, although goes with in spite of the fact that, while whereas in comparison to differences. Now understand context for appropriate usage. Now understanding context means you need to understand what the sentence is about before you use although or whereas. Now a wrap up of whatever we've been doing. We're able to understand that whereas is a conjunction that links two ideas that contrast with each other. Contrast means they are opposites to each other. Now let's look at an example to portray that. Chicken meat is white, whereas that of an ox is red. Now let's look at although. Although is used for introducing a statement that makes the main sentence in a statement in a sentence seem surprising. Okay, so although is used for introducing a statement that makes the main statement in a sentence seem surprising. For instance, it rained all day, we enjoyed the party. Although it rained all day, we enjoyed the party very much. He failed in the exam, although he studied very hard. So it is so surprising that a particular person studied very hard and he still failed the examination. Okay, so let's not forget all this put together. When you are using whereas, don't forget that it deals with what? Direct opposite of ideas, while although deals with what is a contrast as well, but also deals with ideas that are what similar, and also the ones that shows and the ideas that are kind of surprising. How can someone go out for a walk when it's raining? It's surprising, all right? So that's where you can use what although. If you have any question, please send it to my mail, veronica.izoma@greenlandhall.org. Don't forget, you can always send your questions to me. If you don't understand any aspect of the lesson for today, please just feel free to send your questions to me. Veronica.izoma@greenlandhall.org. I also have just a little exercise for you to practice. Fill in the blanks with although, whereas, and then I also introduce because or however. But many a times we tend to mix them up. So just try to answer the exercise that is shown on your screen, and please forward the answers to the same mail, veronica.izoma@greenlandhall.org. I'll be waiting for your questions and also the answer to the exercise that is showing on your screen. Thank you so much for listening. It's good to have you on board. I'll be excited to have you in our class next time. Bye for now.